Is 17th October, Bhagavad Gita study, chapter 6, verse number 6 onwards. Can we repeat verse number 6? 6.6. Chapter 6, verse number 6. बन्धुरात्मात्मनस्तस्य येनात्मैवात्मना जितः अनात्मनस्तु शत्रुत्वे वर्तितात्मैव शत्रुवत्. Translation, all of us together, start. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. I'll quickly recap the format of what I've written on the board. GE stands for every purport what Srila Prabhupada writes. There's always, I remember 5 points, I couldn't recollect the fifth. Did you recollect the fifth one? There are 5 points usually in a purport. I've written the four points here. First is the general explanation of what Krishna means to tell us, right? The meaning of the purport. Now I remember. Okay, so that's what is GE. Is that okay? And the second part of a purport, the explanation of the shloka, will be analogy. That means he's comparing a certain object to make us understand the meaning of the shloka more clearly. Like Mayavad theory, the Supreme Brahman and Krishna's body is compared to the sun and the sunshine. That's like an analogy. So that will be A. The acronym for that will be A. Acharya quote, to emphasize the point that Prabhupada is making, he quotes some other Acharya, any previous Acharya. We have so many Acharyas, so many scholars. So he is quoting them, Madhvacharya, Yamunacharya, Bhakti Vinod Thakur. He quotes a lot of them. That will be AQ. SQ is a scriptural quote from some Upanishad, from Bhagavatam. He is quoting a certain text. Right? That will be SQ. And particular phrase or word from the shloka. Means any particular word which is important in the shloka. And Prabhupada usually takes that and the entire paragraph will be on that. Just that one word or in one particular phrase that Krishna spoke. Specifically pointing out some major point in the shloka. That's what Prabhupada does. So usually a purport will contain all these 5 points or maybe 1 or 2 of these points. But definitely it's going to be nothing more than these 5 points. So every time we do a purport, we're going to break it up like this. Right? So in 6.6 there is only GE. There's only general explanation. There is no analogy given, there is no Acharya quote, there is no SQ, there is no phrase or word. Right? So I've written GE, which means general explanation. So general explanation point number 1. In the purport, have we read the purport last Wednesday? I remember him doing Chariot of the Body. So did he do the purport? Yes? No? Yes. Soon. Yuga. No, I won't forget. Can message her?
I don't think he did the purpose.
It's okay, we can do it again, there's no problem. She sent a message. It's possible that she's not finding it. Because yesterday we got it here. I'm reading the purport. The purpose of practicing eightfold yoga. What's eightfold yoga? 8 is Ashta. Eightfold is Ashtanga. Anga is limbs. So the 8 limbs or the eightfold yoga is to control the mind in order to make it a friend in discharging the human mission. What's the human mission? Go back to Godhead. Know our connection to Krishna. So that mind is a tool for this particular purpose. Mind is a particular tool which helps us meditate or concentrate or achieve the Supreme Lord. It's supposed to do that particular function. Unless, now Prabhupada says, unless the mind is controlled, the practice of yoga for show is simply a waste of time. So when we practice yoga for increased lifespan, for some mystic siddhis, You know, many of them, you'll find all the Himalaya caves have so many Babas. They practice, particularly some of them practice yoga simply for some mystic siddhis. Is that the goal? No, that's not the goal. So here he's saying it's simply a waste of time. One cannot control his mind. One who cannot control his mind lives always with the greatest enemy. That's point number 2. Point number 1 is, we always have to remember, now we're studying something. What is the purpose of this study? What is the purpose of Ashtanga Yoga? It's to control the mind. And the second thing is that we have to realize that unless our mind is not controlled, we're constantly living with an enemy. Imagine you have a business rival and you share an office space with him. It's going to be chaos. You can't have meetings, you can't have tenders, everything will be leaked out to that person. Imagine in the same body we live with a greatest enemy. Whatever mission we're trying to make for our benefit will be spoiled by this enemy. And thus life and its mission are spoiled. The constitutional position of living entity is to carry out the order of the superior. As long as one's mind remains an unconquered enemy, one has to serve the dictations of lust, anger, avarice, illusion, etc. Right? That means the mind is actually not independent. It's just like a child. A very small child cannot be independent. Needs help, needs assistance, needs someone to guide them constantly. What to eat, what time to eat. Small children, they need to be told all the time. Same way the mind is like that. A controlled mind and an uncontrolled mind. What is written here right now, what I read is about an uncontrolled mind. Yeah. Both of them follow dictations. A controlled mind will also follow dictations. That's why I've made a common point here. Dictations, uncontrolled mind, dictations of, a pagal follows I pagal. What is I pagal? Do you remember? I stands for illusion, pride, anger, greed, envy and lust. An uncontrolled mind has 6 masters. And by serving these masters, generally when your servant serves you, you give some salary. These people don't give anything. मुफ्त में काम कराते हैं mind से. And then we expect sometimes, even that job satisfaction is there. Some people don't work for a salary. They just work because they just get some satisfaction. When the mind works for these 6 masters, it doesn't even get satisfaction. It gets only misery. This is the function of an uncontrolled mind. It follows this. And what does a controlled mind do? It follows the dictation of the Supreme Lord. This is like an automatic principle. Once the mind is controlled, it has to follow dictations of the Paramatma. It stops following the dictations of these 6 masters, these anarthas. And then Prabhupada makes another point here. When the mind is conquered, one voluntarily agrees to abide by the dictation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated within the heart of everyone as a Paramatma. There are 2 living entities within this body, Atma and Paramatma. So we have to follow the dictation of Paramatma. Real yoga practice entails meeting the Paramatma within the heart and then following his dictation. So the second purpose or the second goal of Ashtanga Yoga is to meet the Paramatma within the heart. Right? That is also one goal. Number 1 is to control the mind, and what's an automatic thing? It starts following the Paramatma. Right? For one who takes to Krishna consciousness directly, perfect surrender to the dictation of Lord follows automatically. When you're in love with someone, do you actually have to wait till that person gives you some dictation? Yes. If you're in love with someone, you already know what your beloved wants from you, what he expects from you, he or she. Right? You know what is in the heart of that person. So you're automatically doing it. So the last point Prabhupada kind of puts in, he says that a person who's Krishna consciousness doesn't have to go to Ashtanga Yoga because he's already in love with Krishna. He will already follow the dictations of Krishna. Is that okay? Can we go to the next verse then? 6.7. Now 6.9, this whole is one section, verse 6.1 to 6.9. Enemy of friend, Krishna speaks only about the mind in the first 9 verses of this chapter. This particular thing I've broken up into 2 parts, 1 to 6, verse number 1 to verse number 6, and verse number 7 to verse number 9. Verse number 1 to verse number 6 is one section, and verse number 7 to verse number 9 is second section. Verse number 1 to 6 explains a person who is still trying to practice Ashtanga Yoga, and 7 to 9 is a person who is already on an advanced platform. Is that okay? So Krishna describes symptoms of a person with a controlled mind on an advanced platform between verse number 6.7 to 6.9. So we'll start 6.7 now. Jitatmanah prashantasya Paramatma samahitah Shitoshna sukha dukkeshu Tatha mana pamanayoho. Together? Start. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. Bhairav, you will start reading the purport. So here the general explanation is there. Again, Prabhupada is again re-emphasizing that point. And what is Krishna describing here? He is describing the symptom of someone who is already practicing Ashtanga Yoga and has reached a certain advanced level, advanced platform. So here he is saying that that person who has attained the super soul, or one who has conquered the mind, what is an automatic thing that I described here? He's already got to meet got the dictations from the super soul, and that's why he's very peaceful. And peace in what sense? Means the dualities of this world. If you see, everything is dual in this world, day and night, inside, outside, right? Sick and well. Everything has day, evening, and everything, darkness, and there's light. Everything is dual in this world. Yeah. So here Prabhupada Krishna is describing happiness, distress, heat, cold, honor, dishonor. Right? A person who is insulted becomes very much affected. Ego is like the most strong principle that is there in our heart. Yeah? So dishonor affects that ego, it alters that ego, it pricks that ego. So all these dualities that person has already left. So that is a very advanced stage of Ashtanga Yoga. So point number 1 in general explanation. What do you call a spiritual activity and what is a material activity? So spiritual activity is when the mind follows the dictation of the Lord. Then whatever activities we do becomes spiritual. When the mind is following dictations of Maya, it's a material activity. Is that okay? So that's what you said. The last point was that a person who has a controlled mind, automatically he starts following the Supreme Person. Till the time he is in Maya, he is performing material activities. Is it confusing?
Ashtanga Yoga, that means they reach the Supreme Lord.
Samadhi. When we come from 6.10 onwards, I'll tell you what are the 8 exact limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. So 6.8, they actually get to meet the Paramatma. They can see the Paramatma in their heart. Yeah, the 4-handed form. Yeah, the Shirodakshayi Vishnu who is in our heart. That person can actually get darshan of him. And at the end of the 6th chapter, we will see how long it takes. So the further point which is mentioned by Prabhupada is that actually the point of this is that the mind must accept authority, either Krishna or either Maya. Cannot be independent. So either the person is under Maya or is under Krishna consciousness, right? So one has to abide by superior dictation. Where did you stop, by the way? Yeah. So this is a very advanced stage. This is almost reaching Samadhi. That is the Ashta. There's Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharan, Dhyan, and then finally there is Samadhi, which is the 8th and the topmost. It's like a rung. Once you have conquered Yama, then you go to Niyama. like that. Krishna. Right, so this is practically attaining samadhi, when then you become above the dualities of this world. You see everything as the same. Then in 6.8 he also describes further how again his consciousness is. Jnana Vijnana Triptatma Kutastho Vijitendriyah Yukta iti uchyate yogi Samaloshtrashma Kanchanah. Together, start. A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones or gold, as the same. Samaloshtrashma Kanchanaha. Loshtra is pebbles. Ashma is stone. Kanchanaha is gold. You know, there was this couple called South Indian couple. They were very great devotees of the Lord. Their name was Raka and Baka. This Navyogendra Maharaj says this story. Raka is the husband, Baka is the wife. So they are very advanced souls. When they were walking towards the satsang one day, Raka was walking ahead, Baka was few steps behind. So walking, and at this time the husband Raka, he finds some gold coins which were on the dirt on the side of the road. So he looks at it and he feels, okay, now if my wife sees, she'll get attracted to it, so I should protect my wife. So what does he do? Immediately with his feet, before she comes, he starts covering the gold coins with the dirt on the road. So then this Baka, the wife, she looks at it and she's looking at her husband. She's, what are you doing? You're covering dirt with dirt? Doesn't make sense. And then she walks ahead. And what does Raka realize? The wife is advanced than the husband. No. He realizes that, my God, my wife is so much more advanced. She doesn't see a difference between gold and dirt. For her, everything is the same. So that is again a second advanced level of seeing dualities is one thing, and seeing attractive things as material, or just seeing them as gross matter made up of earth, water, fire, air, ether, is also another sign of advancement. Right? So here Prabhupada writes a very important thing in the purport. What he is emphasizing is Yukta iti uchyate. I think that is what he is talking about. The first, Gyan and Vigyan, Triptatma. So you see, that's the first line of the verse. Gyan and Vigyan. What is the difference between Gyan and Vigyan? One is intelligence. Gyan and Vigyan. Vigyan generally we say for science. Science in Hindi is called Vigyan, or in Sanskrit is called Vigyan, Vijnani ko, Then a scientist is called a Vaigyanik or something like that, right? Why? What is the difference? Gyan is knowledge. That also can be science. Why is Vigyan specifically science? And Gyan is knowledge. It's proof. When you go to, and anyone studied science here? Yeah. What did you all have theory and practicals? Both are important. We might keep hearing, the chanting and the glories of chanting. To actually realize what this chanting really is, we have to apply it in our lives. We might ask 10,000 questions about does it work, does it really work, or not have faith in it. But unless we don't try it for ourselves, that is practical. Theory becomes evident when there is practical application. That's why Darwin's theory is theory. It's not science. Why? Because we don't see it practically happening. Monkeys are still existing. Men are still existing. Beach ke 10 stages are anyway gayab, which no one else has seen. Right? So it's a theory. That is the difference between Gyan and Vigyan. And that's what Prabhupada writes in the first line of the purport. Prabhupada, you read the first line, only the first sentence.
a person is said to be established
Book knowledge.
okay. Book knowledge without realization of the supreme truth is useless. This is stated as follows.
This stated as follows. Atah Shri Krishna Namadi na bhavet graham indriya. Sevonmukhe hi jivado. This is the last line. Swayam eva spuratyada. Swayam. What is Swayam? Ourselves. No one can understand the transcendental nature of the name, form, quality and pastimes of Shri Krishna through this materially contaminated senses. This mind is, in a sense, like we read those. Did we do that shloka anytime? Bhumi rapo nalo vayu kam mano buddhi revacha. Which I forgot which. I think it's the 7th chapter. I can't recollect. No? 7.4 or something. So in that, Krishna describes the 8 material elements: Bhumi, Apo, Nalo, Vayu, Kham, Mano, Buddhi, Revacha, Ahankar Ityam, Intyame, Bhunna, Prakriti, Ashtadadi. 8 material elements is earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence and false ego. So this mind is under the material purview. Now with this material mind, we pick up this spiritual book and try to understand it. Or we tried, this chanting of the holy names is a pure spiritual endeavor. We try to see it with a material mind. And that's why we don't understand it. Here he is saying, this is a purport, this is actually an Acharya quote. It's an AQ. So number 1, in general explanation, Prabhupada is clearly defining what is Gyan and what is Vigyan. He is saying there is one which is bookish knowledge, which is Gyan. I think he's written book knowledge,
Acquired knowledge and realization.
Yeah. And Vigyan is, I'll write book or acquired. Is that okay? Acquired knowledge or bookish knowledge, and then there is realized knowledge.
Theory and practical.
Theory. Yeah. This will be practical. For practicals, we do need some theory. The theory by itself is not complete, or it's incomplete unless there is practical. It can be actually practically applied. Only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord, which is practical, are the transcendental name, form, quality and pastimes of the Lord revealed to him. So it has to be revealed. When does it become revealed? When we actually perform some spiritual service. Is that okay? So do we understand the difference? The first line is emphasized in a whole paragraph. And Prabhupada has taken the help of AQ. What is AQ? Acharya quote. There is Rupa Goswami's NOD, Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. It's also called as Nectar of Devotion in English. Just to emphasize this point, that what is the difference between Gyan, what is the difference between Vigyan, what is acquired knowledge, what is realized knowledge. This Bhagavad Gita is the science of Krishna consciousness. It's not just theory, it's a Vigyan, it is science. No one can become Krishna conscious simply by mundane scholarship. This Bhagavad Gita book has theses in Oxford and Harvard and Stanford universities. These people with their material mind make a material endeavor of reading Bhagavad Gita. That's why they don't get devotion. What they study is, maybe management principles that they derive from Bhagavad Gita, or maybe some, when they study Bhumi Rapo Nalo Vayu, they say, understand what is this material world made up of, what is the span of this material world. Some technical concepts they may be able to understand. But the goal of this Bhagavad Gita is to get devotion to the Supreme Lord, which is not, they don't acquire that, right? Because there is only Gyan. And then why someone cannot translate this Gyan to Vigyan? Why is it difficult? Because Prabhupada writes here, one must be fortunate enough to associate with a person who is in pure consciousness. Unless there's a person who is practicing this Vigyan, and that guru, that pure devotee, does not explain it to us of how to transfer this acquired knowledge into practical, it's difficult for a person. A Krishna conscious person has realized knowledge by the grace of Krishna because he is satisfied with pure devotional service. By realized knowledge one becomes perfect, not with acquired knowledge. By transcendental knowledge one can remain steady in his convictions, but by mere academic knowledge one can be easily deluded and confused by apparent contradictions. It is the realized soul who is actually self-controlled because he is surrendered to Krishna. This is another point. Now Prabhupada is making a difference. He is saying, how do you translate from Gyan to Vigyan? With the help of a pure devotee who can explain it to us of how to make this endeavor, how to make this spiritual endeavor, how to make our material mind, how to use this material intelligence to surrender to a supreme spiritual person who is Krishna. Right? That Vigyan, to teach, we need a teacher. Right? Every science requires a teacher. Every guru must be able to present this when he himself is practicing it. Is that okay? So we understand this point. Now only this first word, first line of this, Prabhupada is spending 2 entire paragraphs just to explain the difference between bookish knowledge, because there are so many Pandits of Bhagavad Gita who might know the 700 shlokas of the entire Bhagavad Gita by heart. But personal dealings, you can see that devotion is zero. Missing to jane, negative mein hai. That's because the Vigyan is not there. It's the realized soul who is actually self-controlled because he surrendered to Krishna. He is transcendental because he has nothing to do with mundane scholarship. For him, mundane scholarship and mental speculation, which may be as good as gold to others, are of no greater value than pebbles or stones. So the pebbles and stones that Krishna is mentioning here, Prabhupada is comparing them to bookish knowledge. Because knowledge, when people speak, when they rattle Sanskrit verses, it's so attractive. That, oh, this person knows so much. When they have material education degrees, I think those who are very wealthy, those who are very knowledgeable, they are given a lot of respect automatically, no matter if the character is like zero. But simply with these things, everyone compares it as gold. Krishna calls it as good as pebbles and stones. Useless unless we use it in the service of Krishna. Is that okay? So quickly recap of 6.6, 6.7 and 6.8. 6.6, what did we do? What is the need for a controlled mind? Then we'll be able to follow the dictations of the super soul. It's an automatic treatment that happens. A controlled mind will follow. An uncontrolled mind, what happens? Follows the dictations of Maya and I Pagal. The 6 masters are there. Maya actually presents the 6 masters. It's a gift from Maya to every person who enters this material world, free. 6.7, what did we do? The advanced person is described. The first thing is he attains tranquility. Correct? Number 2, dualities is gone. Right? And number 3, in 6.8 he says that how stones or gold or pebbles, whatever it is, this person doesn't see any difference between them. Yeah? And then he knows the difference between acquired knowledge and realized knowledge. So we have 5 minutes. Do we do the next one? It's the last part of this section. Surin mitraryudasina madhyastha dvesha bandhushu sadhushvapi cha papeshu samabuddhir vishishyate. Translation, start. A person is considered still further advanced when he regards honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral, mediators, the envious, friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners, all with an equal mind. Baapre. Now, actually, I'll break the suspense. From this point onwards, this verse number 37 to 45, there's a question. Actually, this verse number 37 is a question from Arjun. Because when he actually starts thinking, right now I was defining, or Krishna is describing the advanced symptoms of a person who's reached the topmost level of Ashtanga Yoga. So this is like the topmost level. What he's thinking? So Arjun is actually trying to practically apply, because he's a sincere student. He's wondering that if Krishna is saying here, affectionate benefactor, envious person, enemy, everyone I have to see equally. That means Yudhishthir and Duryodhan have to be. It's possible. The honor and the respect that I give to Yudhishthir, I have to give that same honor and respect to Duryodhan, the person who almost raped my wife. Is it possible? That's why at 6.37 onwards, he says this is impractical, this is unendurable. ये मेरे से होने ही नहीं वाला. So I've broken the suspense. Now we're going to start Ashtanga Yoga. The major chunk is 6.10 to 6.36, where Krishna says what are the practical things you need to practice Ashtanga Yoga, and what are the basic technical aspects that you need to practice, what are the internal changes that you need to do. Right? Before that, I'll just write all the 8 levels of Ashtanga Yoga, and then maybe next Wednesday we can place each one of them between 10 to 36. Ashtanga Yoga. So all the 8 limbs. Yeah. I will write the English things for it. Dharan means you're actually going from the feet to the knees to the waist. Each part you're holding. You're still practicing to hold it properly in your mind. And once you've held it, then you start concentrating on him. In 5 minutes, Radhanath Swami Maharaj is arriving. I'm going. So from 10 to 36, Krishna describes this Ashtanga Yoga, external things that one needs to practice, and then internal things one needs to do. 4 makes it 8. Ashta. It's called Mystic Yoga, it's called Ashtanga Yoga. Dhyan Yoga, name of the chapter. Sometimes it's also called Patanjali, because Patanjali was a particular Muni who actually wrote a lot of things about this particular yoga. So sometimes it's called with his name also. It's called Patanjali Yoga. Patanjali.
Which one is called that?
This Ashtanga Yoga, he wrote a lot of things, literature on this particular yoga. So sometimes his yoga is also called by his name, Patanjali Yoga.
This Atma Bodh is what? The Shankaracharya ka? The Mayavadi theory, what Atma Bodh? Vedanta vision.
Yeah. B-O-D-D-H. Vedanta, he's written it on Vedanta Sutra, which is basically written by Ved Vyasa.
But it's Shankaracharya's teachers, no?
It's his, what do you say?
But उसमें भी देखो
Like purpose, her purpose.
photo is there on it, no? The Atma Bodh still puts a Krishna's photo on it.
Yeah. They think we are Krishna. That's the only difference. Yam, prohibitions. Niyam, certain things that you have to do within regulations. Asan, yam is like don'ts. What all things you have to totally leave off. Niyama is regulations. Asan is the sitting postures. Once you perfect asan, then you start practicing the breathing exercises. Pranayam. You're drilling the respiratory system. Chalo. Hari Maharaj is coming. You take darshan and come back? Yeah. I'm going. You can do whatever you want. I'll be back. We'll go out. My Guru Maharaj is coming from London down. He's come after 6 months. So I'll just take a darshan and come back. So he'll come with us. He'll come back.
So how do I know? I can't understand Maharaj is coming. देखो भी नहीं पता कुछ समझ में आया वो क्या होगी कुछ समझ में आया क्लास में आ रहे हैं So why did she say we'll come back here only?
કેમ કે આટલું લેવા માટે આવશું ને. ये वेब सेशन का है. What is it? अभी क्या चल रहा है?
6th chapter.
6th chapter. Overview. लबाना मैम इस
हाँ, Henry and Purvi. Yeah.
I didn't know your name is Sujata. I know you, but
Yeah.
we have to leave now, na?
Yeah. Taking the class?
Downstairs today. That's it.
Very bold.
How are you?
I'm good, ecstatic right now. Maharaj's darshan.
Yes, the beginning. All had Maharaj Darshan?
Yeah, all of us.
Nice.
Planning to come to Vrindavan.
Oh wow.
I mean, with Pinti and Priya and.
You all are coming?
Yeah, that's Reena is trying for.
Tickets.
Not an MBT, but. This region, I don't know.
Yeah, I have the good. Any tickets? So then?
जाएंगी गोकुल में जानते हैं ना किसी को.
Yeah.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bag नहीं है क्या?
Huh?
There's no bag for it.
Oh, we've left everything here. I'll back to ATC and keep it. I'll give it to her in this thing only. This is my house.
मेरे का भी बैग इधर है क्या?
I'll switch to what people are coming in for that.
એને જાણે અંદરથી કોઈ બોલાવી રહ્યું છે, કોઈ બોલાવી રહ્યું છે.
આપણા બધામાં જે સી છે ને, મટીરિયલ
Actually, Maya both shit. Lot of Maya is there. Lot of Ahankar is there. Equal to P.
Excuse me, just switch off the main switch now. इधर है पीछे हाँ.
So I don't need to put the
Main
AC
switch.
individually off.
Yeah, AC is also off.
The AC is on only.
AC is on.
Yeah. I think यहाँ पे सामान पड़ा है लोगों को.
Ravi.